the rules that almost killed him. I never thought I'd be doing chest compressions on my best friend while a clipboard-wielding homeowners association representative stood over me, ordering me to stop. The day had begun with sunshine, calm skies, and the kind of deceptive peace you expect in a picture-perfect suburban neighborhood. That's exactly how life was most days in Lakewood Meadows, a pristine community where everything from lawn length to mailbox color was meticulously regulated. But that afternoon, I learned how far the HOA's obsession with order could go, and how chillingly detached from humanity it could be during a true crisis. My best friend, James, and I had known each other since high school. Our lives had followed strangely parallel tracks. We played on the same teams, gone to the same college, and now, well into our early 50s, we lived just 4 houses apart in the same community. James was more than a friend. He was the kind of brother life gives you when biology doesn't. We had a routine. Every afternoon, we took a walk together along the manicured trails that wound through Lakewood Meadows. That day was no different. First, we made it halfway through our usual loop. We passed the community pond, where we often paused to admire the old weeping willow, and we laughed about what to make for dinner. James had just mentioned he might grill some salmon when he stopped short. It was sudden. He staggered, gasped like he was about to speak, but couldn't, and clutched his chest. His eyes widened in terror as he tried to grab my arm, then collapsed. I caught him just before he hit the ground. At first, I told myself it was probably a dizzy spell. But then his eyes rolled back, his limbs jerked involuntarily, and I realized we were in trouble. Real trouble. My training kicked in, the kind I'd taken years ago and hoped never to use. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, and dropped it to speaker as I lowered myself over James and started CPR. My mind repeated the instructions. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Check airway. Keep going. The dispatcher's voice urged me not to stop until help arrived. And then, like something out of satire, a shadow fell over us. "Excuse me, sir," came a voice, sharp and incredulous. "You can't do that here." I looked up and saw her, Deborah Hall, the infamous HOA compliance officer. Clipboard in hand, lips pursed so tightly they almost disappeared into her face. Her eyes scanned me like she was searching for trash bin left out too long. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Back off," I snapped, breathless. "He's not breathing. I'm performing CPR. Paramedics are on the way." Deborah stepped closer, shaking her head. "You need to stop. This is a shared use area. Unauthorized medical procedures aren't allowed without board clearance. That's in the guidelines." Her words didn't even register at first. I was too busy fighting to keep James alive. But then she started taking pictures. "You're violating HOA protocol. If you don't cease, I'll have to file a formal report." I almost lost it. "This man could die." I screamed. "Move." But she didn't. She loomed, her presence throwing my concentration off. When she reached down, as if to physically pull me away, I shoved her aside. Not hard, but enough to keep her from interfering. My hands were shaking with fury, but I kept pushing on James's chest, begging him to hang on. The dispatcher's voice returned. "Keep going. Ambulance is less than 2 minutes out." I didn't stop. People began to gather, neighbors in their driveways, folks walking dogs. They looked horrified, confused, stunned, but none stepped in. Maybe they didn't know what to do. Maybe they were just as dumbfounded by Deborah's interference as I was. When the paramedics finally arrived, I collapsed backward, gasping. James was rushed to the hospital, and I followed, still soaked in sweat, trembling with anger and fear. Deborah had stayed behind, talking on her phone, probably filing her report on me. At the hospital, James's wife, Laura, met me in a haze of panic and disbelief. She'd been out of town visiting her mother. I told her what happened as best I could. Her face went pale with horror. "She told you to stop CPR?" she said. "Are you kidding me? What kind of place is this?" I didn't have an answer. The only thing I knew was that if I had listened to Deborah, James might have died. The doctors worked on James for hours. They managed to get his heart beating again, but warned us that the next 24 hours were critical. The lack of oxygen might have caused brain damage. That night, I paced the hospital corridors, trying to make sense of everything. My legs felt like lead, my mind like it had been thrown in a blender. Every time I thought of Deborah's cold, insistent voice demanding that I stop, rage boiled in my gut. Laura called a cousin who was an attorney. She believed the HOA's actions constituted negligence, or worse. They nearly interfered with a life-saving procedure, she said. That's criminal. And she was right. This wasn't just pettiness anymore. This was about life and death. As James lay in a coma, the story began to spread through Lakewood Meadows. Rumors swirled. One neighbor told Laura that Deborah had been bragging about how she handled a CPR violation in a common area. Another said she'd filed a formal complaint naming me as a policy violator. I was stunned. The community, however, wasn't having it. People were furious. Someone had recorded a snippet of the scene on their phone. It wasn't clear, but you could hear me yelling, "He's dying," and Deborah's voice replying, "This is against policy." The outrage exploded. A local reporter, Sandra Klein, reached out to us. Laura and I sat down with her and told her everything. The article she published went viral in our area, headlined, "Rules Over Lives: The Lakewood Meadows CPR Controversy." The HOA issued a statement the next day. It was sanitized, corporate-sounding nonsense. Our representative was simply following protocol to ensure safety. We dispute any claims that CPR was forcibly halted, but people didn't buy it. The video, the witnesses, my story, it all painted a very different picture. Soon, other residents came forward. One man, Jerome, revealed that months earlier, his daughter had a severe asthma attack at a community event. The HOA had discouraged him from calling 911 because they didn't want to cause a disruption. Another woman described how she was told to wait for paramedics instead of using her EpiPen on her husband after a bee sting. Attorney Barbara Drake, a personal injury specialist, helped us put together a case. Her findings were damning. Internal HOA emails discussing liability, instructions to prioritize rules over unauthorized interventions, even notes from a training session where board members were told to discourage on-site medical aid. By now, lawsuits were being filed. Ours. Jerome's. Others joined in. Barbara said we had a strong case. I believed her. Eventually, the HOA caved. They offered a settlement, medical bills, legal fees, a public apology, and a full repeal of the policy banning CPR or medical intervention by residents. Deborah resigned. She moved out quietly one night. Her porch light never turned on again. But the damage was done. The illusion of Lakewood Meadows as a safe, friendly neighborhood was shattered. James survived. His recovery was slow, but steady. Each day he regained a little more strength, and each time I saw him smile, it reminded me why I had fought so hard. Sometimes he'd ask again, "She really tried to stop you?" And each time I'd nod, his expression dark with disbelief. The HOA board was voted out in a special election. New leadership took over. People who valued humanity over rules. The bylaws were rewritten, and a new community code was introduced, stating unequivocally that no resident shall be prohibited from providing emergency aid to another. We didn't do it for revenge. We did it for everyone in that neighborhood, and for the next person who might fall, gasping for air, on a quiet trail by the pond. If I had listened to Deborah that day, James wouldn't be here. Sometimes, doing the right thing means breaking the rules. And in Lakewood Meadows, that truth will never be forgotten.